Dunkley, Parker and Brody, welcome back to Sound Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another episode. We're back after a 3-week hiatus. We do apologise for the sporadic uploads, but I'm glad to be back, boys. How have you been lately?
Outside of Supercoach, I'm doing really well, but my Supercoach team this week had a massive L, so I'm sure we'll get into that, but that wasn't the best.
Yeah, I'm going all right. Been quite busy as of late. Plenty going on. But my Supercoach team, it sucks. It's a bit of a shame. I don't know what's actually wrong with it, but it's one of those things where you can't really diagnose it and you can't really treat it. So you sort of just got to cope with it.
Yeah. Now, Das, aside from Supercoach, I saw that you kicked your first goal this week for your new team.
2, mate.
Two.
Yeah,
Double trouble. And did you win? Oh, okay. Well, we'll ignore that, but we'll return to the Supercoach side of things. Now, how have you been scoring, boys? And how did you score this week?
So over the last few weeks, I've actually been scoring pretty well. I've been going up in the ranks every week. Until this week, I only scored 2,190 this week. It was the first time I've gone down in the ranks all year, down 2,400 spots. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into why that happened, but it wasn't the best week.
Yeah, I thought I've been scoring decently too, but it's just one of those years where it seems like everyone's scoring so well because everyone started with the same 16 out of 22 players. So pretty much all the good picks from the start of the year, everyone has. So if you have a good week, everyone has a good week. If you have a bad week, I don't know, it's easy to have a really bad week. So last few weeks I've gone 2,094, which was a really bad week. I had 2,397 last week and 2,124 this most recent week. So yeah, not great scoring, but my team value's gone up nicely. And I'm still getting a lot of cash gen in, so I'm not too worried. I think if I make it into finals, I'll be able to finish strong, but my rank's pretty much out the window.
Yeah, likewise. I've been improving just like Save every week, but it's not hard to improve when you're astern of nearly half of the whole pool in the Supercoach industry. But I'm 55,453rd at the moment. So a long way down. And if you missed it at the start of the year, there are a few, we'll say, questionable options that cost me. But we'll move on. Save, who were your heroes and villains this week?
We'll start with my villain. My number one villain is, I guess you could say, a rolling lockout, but it's Jordan Ridley. So I had 8 defenders play, the amount you need on the field, but I only had 7 defenders score for me. And that's because I was doing the captain loophole and I used it in the back line. I put my captaincy on George Hewitt instead of putting it on a midfielder, which I could have done anyway. But then Sam DeConning got locked into his game while I had the emergency on Paddy McCartan. And then the Essendon game started. Jordan Ridley was a laid out 5 minutes after the Geelong one had already started. So I had DeConning score 82 on my bench, but Ridley was on field with 0, and he was not my emergency. So that cost me 82 points, which was not good and sort of what I was alluding to in the intro. But yeah, he's far and away my number one villain. And the other one I could really say is Zach Butters. He's had a few scores below 70 now. And for someone we expected to be like a F1 capable player, he has not performed at all. My hero, I would say maybe Took Miller. A lot of the reason behind that is because of his last week as well, which we missed, but he had 160 and 122 massive performances from him. Jack McRae as well, vice captain, 144 was really good.
Us?
My villains have sort of been half my primos each week. Similarly, Zach Butters was weak. I had a lot of primos go under 80. So I had Dunkley, Treloar, Steele, Luke Ryan. So that they're all, other than Dunkley, they're not massively owned players. So it's quite costly when they don't score too well. And yeah, I didn't really have any big scores to make up for it either. But a hero is probably season-long hero Nick Martin. He continues to shine, averaging 90.6. He looks like he'll be the last upgrade. He's been very good. Jared Witt's 132. I traded him in a couple weeks ago. He's been very good for me. Sam Hayes 98. He was on the bench for me, but he's providing good cash gen. And Macomb scored 73 to get a decent cash boost when I wasn't expecting too much out of him. So it's sort of the cheaper players doing well for me.
Now, if I were to categorize someone in my villain section, I'd have to say Luke Parker. I'm not 100% sure if last time we were here, the dual position player was out, but essentially I traded Luke Parker out, and basically he's a necessity now. So I've cost myself 2 trades in that facet. But
to be fair, and he scored 89 on the weekend.
Yeah. The weeks before that, I've had him for another 2 weeks on top of that.
My first week owning Luke Parker was this week, at least this year. My first week owning him, and yeah, as Darcy said, only 89, so it wasn't the best performance from him for me.
No, but aside from that, all the premiums, they've been a little inconsistent, but still scoring over 100. And I've had to select the second captain option quite a few times. Obviously, McRae scored that 89 a few weeks ago. And in that same week, Took Miller, who I had as captain, scored just under 100 as well, I believe. Yeah, so the captain choice is a little difficult at the moment.
That would have been my villain if we had a podcast a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, I had Steele as my vice captain. He scored 122, and I decided to roll the dice with McRae. And as he said, he only scored 80 something. So between that and Ridley, I could have been a lot higher in the ranks, but it is what it is, I guess.
Now, we do have a few new options. A man out west returning from COVID, a new debutant who's not an option yet, but that's Luke Cleary. He's a new defender. But there are plenty of people on the bubble. And without further ado, Das, I'll let you introduce us to them.
So there's a few big ones to keep your eye on for this week. There's Carroll for Carlton, 123k. I am a little concerned about his job security though.
Yep.
So I'm not massive on getting him in. What do you think about his job security, Xavier?
I think he's definitely going to play at least this week. Can't have a few injuries, but I think Matt Owies is going to get dropped before him. He only scored about. He's had a poor couple of weeks now, Matt Owies, but yeah, Carroll's been really impressive the last 2 weeks. So I would give him at least 2, maybe 3 more games, even if he is playing fairly poorly. So at the moment, I think I'm going to get him in. If that helps.
Even Lockie O'Brien as well, maybe ahead of him potentially.
Yeah, that's another one as well. It's sort of on that wing position, so depends if Carlton do want to play him there or if they view him as more of a small forward. But yeah, Owies or O'Brien, as well as Setterfield, he's looking to come back in. And but yeah, we don't really have that depth on the wing position at the moment.
And then we've also got Maurice Rioli. Mid forward 123k as well. He's projected to go up 65k. The forward eligibility is quite handy there. A lot of people have issues in their forward line, probably trading out Rochelle. Juan Francis is another one to trade out, but he's obviously in the mid. So the mid forward eligibility there is quite handy with Rioli, and he's scored well. He's had 2 decent scores, and he's got potential. And then also, if you happen to miss out on Hayes for Port Adelaide, you get another chance this week. Luke Stranatica for West Coast, 102,000. He's got a negative 72 break even, due to go up 61k. He hasn't scored as well as Hayes, but if you've still got a Jack Hayes on the bench, so I was meaning Sam Hayes. So if you still have Jack Hayes on the bench,
yeah,
or maybe a Dixon who might not play again this week, because it seems like he's fallen out of favour after the nightclub incident. Stranatica could be an option.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Hamilton, he's a good player, mid forward, 102k, negative 63 break even, 56k projected increase. It could be useful with that forward eligibility again. Aiden Begg in the ruck, 123k. I think I would prefer Stranatica over Begg if you were to make a choice. And then we've got Callum Jamieson, also in the ruck. So same story as the last couple. And yeah, Toby Bedford could be an option too. Pure
Yeah.
forward. He had a decent couple games, around 50. He's averaging 49, but he didn't play last game. So you'll have to
Yeah.
keep an eye on the teams there, but there's a few options there for you.
Now,
Unfortunately, though, defense is very weak.
Yeah, well, maybe Luke Cleary in a couple of weeks. Luke Beveridge does seem to give the rookies a run. Obviously, McComb has played 3 games already. He doesn't look to be moving anywhere.
I have a couple things to say. First, breaking news: Harry Mackay is set to miss the next 6 weeks after tearing his meniscus in his knee. So that's
Wow.
not Supercoach relevant, but it's a massive loss for Carlton. And I'm sitting over here crying while you guys are talking about the rookies.
And just while we're on Carlton, George Hewitt is cleared to play if he makes it through. If he makes it through Friday's training.
Okay, I was hearing reports that he could be 3 to 4 weeks, but
yeah, well, he trained. I think I saw he trained completely today, and then they said if he does make it through Friday's session, I think then he will play on the weekend. So.
Okay.
Tim English will miss. He has illness, and there's a few others who have probably less notability. But as far as job security goes, I will say Maurice Rioli is the most secure out of all of them. If I have to segregate one person, I mean, his work rate was patently obvious on the weekend, and they need that type of player. So in my opinion, he's the safest option out of that pool, but he might not be the biggest scorer. I just think that he will be in that side long term.
See, it's a bit of an awkward period at the moment because there's a couple of weeks before the buys. So you'll be needing whoever you're getting in now to have made quick money by the buys, because you'll probably need to trade them out around then. Yep. So that's where you got to make the assessment of, do I go Carroll or do I go just to Greg Clark instead of Rioli or someone with less scoring ability, just so you can get that quick, easy money before the buys, or do you back Rioli into being a long-term hold? So,
well, Sam Hayes in that aspect as well.
Sam Hayes
definitely be assisted.
Yeah, Sam Hayes that's the only reason why I got him in. I could have had Tim English sitting on the ruck bench, but I thought I'll get some quick money out of Hayes.
Yeah.
I think Greg Clark's an interesting one because obviously he's not on the bubble this week, but he had the massive score. And I think if it's between like a Greg Clark or a Carroll, I know Clark isn't on the bubble, but I'll probably go with Clark still, because he's still I think you could put him on field like pretty safely. He's got 104 and he looks to have a really, really good role in the West Coast midfield, given all their injuries and the problems that they have going on at the moment. So, I think he's got really good job security and he's got really good scoring potential as well. So, I think we'll bring him in this week.
Yeah, we were going to bring it up later, but Clark is an in for me this week. So,
Now, that's my only bother with the other Eagles players that you named, Das, because of all the COVID, the issues and the nightclub incident. Plenty of them will be released back to the VFL. But Stranatica, and there was also one more who impressed on the weekend, Jamison.
So Stranatica didn't play on the weekend. He was out with COVID, so that means he should be immune now. So that's why I'm pretty keen on Stranatica.
To the pods now, and for the second week in a row, Tom Lynch will take the cake. He has scored 167 and 184 over his last 2 weeks, and he has a break even of negative 67, which is inconceivable, boys. What do we think?
I don't think as a cash-making option he's legitimate, because there's going to be one bad score, and at his price he's going to be right back up there with a high break even. So, or even a good one, and even like a solid one, move that 160 out, and it's not going to be as good. But maybe as a pod, I'd probably give him a couple extra weeks to see if he could be a genuine premium up forward.
A couple extra weeks, and you missed the price rise.
Yeah,
but I don't think he's going to go up to like 600k, because as I said, one solid score or even one below average score, and the break even's going to shoot right back up to around the 80, 90, 100 mark. So, I don't think the price, I would wait a couple extra weeks, wait for him to rise in price just to see, because, I think it's too much of a risk to pick a key forward and not know that 100% he's going to perform. So if he was to come out, score like 100 and then 100 the following week, then yeah, maybe he is a legitimate option. We've seen him be one before at the Gold Coast, but since he's come to Richmond, I think he's been more of like a bear in the square, lead up type forward that doesn't really translate very well to Supercoach. Obviously, he's had a couple of really big games, but that's mainly because he's kicked like 6 and 7 goals. So yeah, I would wait.
Now, as far as other pods are concerned, Hugh McCluggage certainly stamped his authority again. 4 goals, 575,800. He scored 154. In the back line, you have Shannon Hearn with 129. And with the ball sitting in the back line for most of this season, you'd think, for the Eagles, could he be an emerging option, or would you like to ignore him? It seems like we always return to this conversation every season.
Every year, Shannon Hearn is like a D6 to D10 type option. I think it helps his scoring that Alex Witherden didn't play. Once he comes back in, he's going to take a lot of kick-ins and be the player that they use on the switches. So for that reason, I'd probably avoid. But if Witherden comes back in and he scores well again, then maybe he is an option you look at.
Now, Heath Chapman, another inexplicable miss by me, 136 in the back line. I'll save one more player for later on. And then in the midfield, you have Ed Langdon with 126 and Todd Goldstein up forward with 142. But I'll bring this up for Darce's case and Zave, I guess yours as well, that you have been saying to me all week.
Yeah, as far as Ed Langdon, definitely don't touch him. And Goldstein, I'll let Darcy speak on it, but he's someone that I was thinking about picking, and then you guys sort of pointed out that Cherry's going to come back in soon. So once he does, then his role's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
And just before Darce talks, one more was Charlie Curnow with 150.
Yeah. So yeah, I've told a couple of people in the last couple of weeks to not consider Goldstein due to Cherry being due back in 2 rounds. So while his role might be good for a couple of weeks, there's no long-term security. And to be honest, watching the games, I haven't thought Goldstein was amazing. I thought he got absolutely destroyed by Sean Darcy. He just managed to score well because there were a lot of goals scored, I guess. I'm not sure how he scored well, to be completely honest with you. But against Carlton too, he played against a very undermanned ruck lineup against Carlton, so I think that's why he scored well there. I still thought Tom De Koning fought well in that, but he was coming up against Jack Silvani in a couple ruck contests, to be honest, so I wouldn't take the Carlton score too seriously. So I haven't thought he's been too impressive, even though he's scored well, and with Cherry back in 2 weeks, his role is completely uncertain.
Yeah, I think the scores where Cherry has been the number one ruck, he's got 90, 70, 62, 29, and 68. So once Cherry comes back, if that's the output you're getting from someone that's almost 500K, it's just you can't pick him.
Now, I'll preserve the defender that I was discussing for later on, but for now, we have a few options that people are looking at, and Darce is here to explain whether you should buy, sell, or hold.
Yes. So there are a few options that are a bit interesting this week. There's plenty of rookies being looked at. We've already gone over the rookies, but we've got Travis Boak very well in the conversation. What are your thoughts on him?
Yep.
I think at this stage of the year, he has to be a buy. He's the 3rd highest scoring player so far, as far as total is, just behind McRae and Neil. So to say he's going to be a top 8 midfielder at the end of the year, I don't think is a stretch at all. So I would definitely at least consider getting him in.
I have been all year, probably since round 2, an exponent for Travis Boak. And every week he seems to give it his all and produce magnificent scores.
Yeah, I think what's good for Boak as well is Rosie's been playing a lot of midfield, and it seems like it's been Butters that they've been pushing out of the midfield, and Boak's been staying in there. So I think that's a positive sign for him and his Supercoach scoring.
And while we're on topic of Butters
for me is I think you should look to move him on, but for me, I'm holding him until Tim English gets back. So then I'll just put Tim English on the field and trade Butters out for probably a midfield premium. But I think if you do have the chance, I would look to move him on. He's not playing a well enough role and he's completely out of form. And if you do wait too long, his price will drop too low and you miss out on plenty of decent options in the forward line at the moment.
For me, I'm going to hold him because I think he's still got an average of 87. So, I mean, I've got to get rid of Horn Francis, Paddy McCartan and O'Driscoll, the likes of those players, Rochelle, before I get rid of Butters, because I think they're just, you can't put them on field and be as safe with them. And then it's going to have to be an upgrade as well from Butters because, I mean, and it's not going to be a sideways trade because I'm looking at the people that are around his price. Aaron Norton, Errol Goulden, Tyson Stengel, Peter Wright, Charlie Cameron, Josh Bruce, Nick Martin, Max King, Jordan DeGoey. None of those guys are like top six. Even there's no way they're going to be a top six forward. So if it's not an upgrade, it's going to be a bad trade. So, yeah.
So depending on your team's state of affairs, whether you're rookie infused in the back line, would you say that that's what Sack Butters is predicated on?
Yeah, I think if he is your biggest problem at the moment, 100%, because he is a problem. Like, it's not good having him on the field. But if he's your biggest problem, 100% get him out. Get in like a Luke Parker, a Heaney, a Dunkley, someone like that, and someone that's going to be a top six forward.
Yeah.
But then, if you do have a problem, as you said, if you're playing an extra defender in defence, if you still have Horn Francis or Rochelle, then I think you probably have to get rid of those guys first.
Yep, a couple of quick buys. Andrew Brayshaw, he's looking great. He's at a decent price of $570 at the moment. Patrick Cripps, $580K. I think this could be the cheapest we can see him for the rest of the year, unless he falls significantly out of form. I do remember saying our episode before the season started that I remember I was tossing up between Cripps and Rowell, and I said, I'm going to come back to this and hate this moment. Cripps has gone up 125K this year. Sicily, another one that we've missed, 569K. He's gone up 120K. I think he's a great option. Jordan Dawson, he's getting a lot more wing midfield time. He's looking good. So I would also have him as a buy. Now we'll get into a bit of what you guys touched on. Nathan O'Driscoll, do you think it's time to move him on?
Yep.
I definitely think you could. I'd trade Horn Francis and Rochelle if you have those two before I traded O'Driscoll, just because he has the defensive eligibility. But I could definitely see a world where you move off all three.
Jake Bowie.
Yep. Served me well, but time to dish him off.
Yeah, I would agree with him as well. I never really liked the pick, to be honest.
Yep. Hugh Dixon didn't play on the weekend due to that nightclub incident. 246K. Plenty of people have him in their forward or ruck bench, and he's got a break even of 47. Do you think it's time to move him on?
Yeah, Morris Rioli should be ahead of him.
I moved off Hugh Dixon last week, but in saying that, I probably wouldn't move off him just because I think he's a better field option than Rochelle. He's going to make more money than Rochelle as well. He's better than McDonald if you have him in your forward line. Same as Rosas, he's going to be better than him too. So I think that could go either way.
Josh Ward with a break-even of 46.
Yeah, get rid of him. That was bad by me to start the year.
I'd say you're in the majority.
Yeah, true. But if I had to pick, I don't know, use someone 120K and upgraded to Sicily in my backline, I would have been sitting a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I thought this one was interesting, but 3.7% of Supercoaches have traded out Malcolm Roses after he's 18 on the weekend. Do we know if he's injured there or it was just a bad score and now everyone's jumping ship?
I don't blame them. It was just a terrible score that I have to hold this week.
At the moment, I have him sitting out of my team, but that's because I've used the boost and just to make my team look better. But I don't think that's going to end up being the case. I think I'm going to hold on to him. I'm trying to look up his break even right now. But yeah, I think Dylan was right. I don't think he got injured. I think it was just a bad score, which small forwards are kind of prone to. He's got a break even of 50. So like he's probably not going to make that. He's only made that in 2 of his 4 games. But once that 18 does drop out of his break even, out of his rolling average, his break even is going to go back down again, regardless of if he makes or loses money this week.
Yeah.
So that's it. So we've touched on the big ones, unless you guys have anything.
No, nothing from my end, but I'm eager to see who you'll be trading out, boys.
So, on that note, my current thoughts is that it's going to be a double downgrade week because I don't have enough cash to get an upgrade in, and then it'll allow me next week to get an easy upgrade. So I'm thinking so far, Rochelle and Ward out for Clark, and at this point I've got Carroll in, but I might be able to. Never mind. I don't think I'll be able to swing that into Rio. I'll be able to swing that into Rioli, yeah. So I could do Rioli instead of Carroll, but at the moment I'm locked in for Clark, from Ward and Rochelle. So
yep,
just a toss up between the other two at this point.
At the moment, I have Rosa, Swan Francis, and O'Driscoll going out for Clark, Carroll, and Sam Doherty. But as I said before, I don't really think I'm going to use a boost because I've got 3 left and I want to use 1 in each of the bye rounds. So I think it's going to end up being just Swan Francis and O'Driscoll for Greg Clark and 1 of Carroll or Maurice Rioli. I haven't quite decided. I'll see how my structure's lining up. My forward line looks a little bit weaker at the moment, so Rioli's definitely still an option.
Geez, you have 3 boosts left, Zave. I have 1 after this week if I elect to use one, but I'll go with Bowie, Ward, and Dixon out for Rioli, Clark, and Isaac Cumming, who I was hiding before.
That's an interesting pod. He's had a really, really good year so far.
Yes. And to me, it is beyond clear that he has to be one of the more underrated and underappreciated defenders in the competition.
Yeah, he's 15th for total points amongst defenders, but if you look at average, he's 7th behind 8th behind Short, Sicily, Witherden, Stewart, Doherty, Hewitt, and Nick Boston, who's only played the 3 games. So at this stage, he's looking like a genuine option to be a top 8 to top 6 defender.
So if you remove out of that equation Nick Vlosten, who's only played 3 games, and Alex Witherden, who you boys weren't too keen on a few weeks ago, Cumming sneaks into the top 6 there.
Mm-hmm.
Das?
Yeah, no, I think he's going strong. He's had 3 scores above 125, another score above 115, and then 94, 87, and 73 first round. So pretty much after the first round, he's picked it up. I'd say have an average of 103-ish after the first round. So definitely looks like a pretty solid option to me.
And he's definitely a pod as well at 0.7% ownership.
Yeah.
So it's very risky because it could go either way. He could have, obviously, if he continues scoring 110 per game, he's going to be a massive pickup for you. And yeah, you're going to look very, very smart. But if he pumps out a few more of those 70s, then you're going to get in a bit of trouble.
Well, this is exactly the type of pick Dylan lands. Let's be honest. Yeah. Every year he's got one. He had Zach Jones probably 3 years ago. He had CJ last year. You just land one of those picks, and I think that'd be it.
That's the thing, Das. I'm still haunted from earlier this year. I can name on 2 hands the amount of players that I initially selected and didn't keep in my side. Jack Sinclair, Paddy Cripps, George Hewitt, Lockie Neal, and the list goes on. But there was another one there as well who I had on the top of my head. But
what I'm hearing is you just got to start picking them, mate. You just got to start backing.
I have to go with my guts. That's a lesson that I've learned, boys, this year already. And at the start of the year, I said I'll be aiming for minimal issues. Well, I think I've already had more than last year, especially when I captained Saligo on accident.
We haven't had a Dusty conundrum yet. You're going to do it soon with the Parker situation, but
was that trade out and then back in?
The next week, yeah.
I mean, it's mighty close with Luke Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that pays off. I'm certainly looking forward. I feel like I orchestrate most of the pod moves here because I'm an advocate for them. So there'll always be one, if not more.
Have you seen my team this year? My team was loaded with pods.
That's why Darcy's so up and down. This year, Darcy's got Bailey Smith, Adam Treloar, Luke Ryan, Josh Kelly.
Yeah, I got Luke Ryan.
I started with Ryan Marshall.
Yeah, started with Ryan Marshall.
In fairness, it has been a few weeks, Das, so we'll do the weekly checkup from now.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a bit of a longer episode today, but I think we made up for the last 3 weeks of missed content. I reckon it'll probably end up around 26 minutes. So
yeah, and for anything else we've missed, just DM us on at AFL Supercoach, the account, and of course we'll update throughout the week leading up to the rolling lockouts, announce all the ins and outs.
Or send a few messages Xavier's way to sts.podcast on Instagram.
Yep.
I'm sure he'll be happy to answer a few questions. And I think I'd back in his answers more than myself and Dylan at this point in time as well.
Yeah. And at Footy Beanies for the weekly special, if there is an upset or if there's any new introduced beanies. But that's all we have for this week. We appreciate you all for watching. We're over 200 subscribers now. The growth is unbelievable.
Coming.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you again, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.